Again, we want to thank Sarah and Rebecca for I was going to say Daniels. Rebecca for coming back. They've graduated their master's program and they've gone and they're all grown up. And Sarah's gone back out a second time into the workforce, and they're all school teachers and band leaders and all that stuff in Warner Robins or the Houston County and in Savannah, or it's in the Savannah system you're in, but you live in Pooler. So, but we're glad that you guys came back. How many of you enjoyed the football game yesterday? How many of you stayed to the end? Yeah, I did too. I mean, we didn't do that last week against that other team, did we? We were out of there third quarter, but last night we had to stay the whole time. That was a little close there, but it was a great win, great victory for Georgia Southern. They reminded you earlier, and I'll remind you again, if you got your message notes, can you hold those up? And it looks like a bulletin or whatever. That portion on the side that you see, I want to give you just, if you don't have a pen or anything, or you don't have a message notes, raise your hand and Tiffany or someone back there on the back will give you one. We want to make sure you get one, so we need some message notes and some pens. What we want you to do is fill out that information on the front or the part side that says connection really quick, because in a few moments after I finish speaking, we're going to take up our offering. We're going to ask that you tear those off and put them in the offering baskets. While we're singing the last song, they're going to take these out of the offering baskets, and somebody is going to win a prize. We're going to draw a name out. We'll throw that name up on the screen, and you'll be able to see that at the end of the last song, and you'll know you'll have a gift basket. I think it's somewhere. I don't remember where it's at. I think that's that orange thing sitting back there on the part. So that'll be the gift basket we'll give away to somebody that's here today. So if you're a first-time guest, you've got a good shot at this, I promise you. So everybody just fill out whatever you're comfortable with on that information. So what we've been doing over the last several weeks, and this is the conclusion of it, is we've been talking about heroes and what it is to be a hero. And we sort of had a big day last week with 9/11, and I'm not sure where you were, if you were here last week or somewhere else. I know that some of the college ministries, CCF, was on retreat last weekend, and they had a big time there. But we talked about some of the things that over the last several weeks that are characteristics of heroes, and we match those characteristics to what we say is about us growing in our walk or in our spiritual maturity as we move toward becoming more like Jesus. We believe that is the ultimate hero that we can be, is to become more like Jesus. And we've talked about over the last several weeks about the movement that takes, how we move from one point to the next point. And we talk about how we take an oath, or we confess that He's our Lord and Savior at some point in time, and we move from, if you use military terms, from being an enlisted person. And once you take that oath, you're a civilian before you take that oath, and then you become an enlisted person. And then during the next several weeks or some points at a time, you have a baptism, if you will, a baptism by fire, if you will, through boot camp. And at that point, then you move to the next stage to where you're moved from a recruit to being a service person. And then you begin to go into your first particular combat or your first particular assignment. And then you continue to grow and learn. And that's the way it is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. We start out at one place, we confess Him as our Savior, and we make an oath or a promise, and then our baptism is through water, and we're connected to that. We're connected to that team, and let the world know we're a part of that team. And then we're given our assignment, and He sends us out, and we do things, and then we work with our team as we continue to grow and become more like Jesus. And to me, those are the heroes. And when we talk about heroes in the world, we talk about, there's some common things, and one of the things that I had noticed or noted was that heroes personal sacrifice is at the heart of heroism. It's a willingness to put the needs of others first, even at extraordinary personal cost. So you think about all the heroic things that you've seen on the TV last week about reminding of 9/11, or you think about some heroic things that you've seen in your life of what was happening. I know we had that video that showed last week, and some people say, you made me cry showing that stuff on the video. Well, I didn't mean to make you cry. I was just showing you some of the ways that heroism happens when people just do extraordinary things under very difficult circumstances. But sometimes heroism, I'm not sure, I might have saw a hero last night at the football game. And it was on the field because I saw a player make a boneheaded mistake and got a penalty threw on him that cost us our team. And I thought, and we were all sitting in a little group up there, and like, boy, that coach is going to chew that player out, okay? And that player come off, and sure enough, they called him off the field. It was a personal foul. It was unnecessary. And I'm thinking they are going to get up in their face. I've been watching Nick Saban and some of these others, and I'm telling you, you don't mess up on his team and not get an earful. And so let's watch this player come off, and coach just went over there and said a few words and walked on. I'm like, what? Why? Where is it? Just get up into him. Get him stirred up. What's going on? Just remind him of how much he screwed up, how much he cost us. He could have cost us a game. He cost us a down. He could have cost us a game. But he didn't. Because the truth is, when I saw that happen, I'm like, that coach knows, he knows that. And he knows that he made that mistake in front of 20-some thousand fans tonight. And he could hear everyone in our portion of the stands on the home side yelling down their discontent with what he did. And that coach did a very brave and heroic thing. He encouraged that player. Not by discouraging, not by squishing him down lower, but by encouraging him, because he knew that player had known what he'd done. And so some heroic acts aren't just running toward a fire when everyone runs away. Some heroic acts are those things that we see that people do to help encourage people or to help them. School teachers do this a lot. School teachers, I love to just study school teachers and how they do things. Because I'm all about watching what your actions are that you do, even in school teachers, everywhere of what you do. I watch this when I'm coaching a U6 team in soccer, so that means they're under 6, which means they're 4, 5, and 6 years old. And I don't know how many 4 and 5 and 6 year olds you hang around with, but me hanging around with them, I'm finding out they don't know a whole lot about soccer or even how to put their pants on sometimes. I'm just going to say that. You understand? Sometimes their shin guards are on the outside, and sometimes they're on the inside of their socks. Sometimes their pants are on backwards. And you understand what I'm saying? And then I'm also helping with my son has started, he's with the rec department. They started a 3-year-old program. Holy cow. I've never seen so much crying in all my life to be out there. You understand? And so I'm watching this, but I watch and I notice how intimidating it must be to a 3, 4, and 5-year-old or 6-year-old when you stand there as a coach and you're telling them what to do, and a teacher telling them what to do. And the ones that I see that are really good, they'll do this. And they get down to their level. And they'll meet them where they are to talk to them, to encourage them. Because it's not about how big I am. It's about passing this on to this little one. And to me, that's heroic. That's a heroic. I see it in jobs and businesses where people do the same type of thing in their business. Even when money is at risk or at cost or we could lose business, but you want to teach them the right thing to do. And so I see that sometimes personal sacrifice is your business or your reputation when you stand by somebody or you stand with somebody that you believe in that person and you stand by them when nobody else wants to be around them because of a mistake they made or because they don't agree with them or don't agree with what they're doing the night before or whatever, but you stay right in there with them. See, heroes, we have the opportunity to see what they do. When you and I are out in the world, we can see what a hero does. We can see when they meet the needs of others. We can see how they see a need. There's a need that needs to be done, and they meet a need. We see what they do. But you also see how they do it. You see if they're willing to put the needs of others before their own. You're willing to see, you're able to see if they're willing to make personal sacrifices whenever it's necessary. Will they sacrifice themselves? Will they, not literally just, cut their wrist or anything, but will they sacrifice their time, their energy? Will they sacrifice their ego? Will they sacrifice the power position and get lower to not be about a power struggle? Will they sacrifice those things? And we get to see that. We see how they do it. We can see whether they're passionate about it or whether they're posers. And there's a difference in there. Because we're pretty smart. We've been trained. Our society has taught us that we've seen so many posers in the world, we can probably pick them out a lot quicker than we used to. But now posers are getting more, they're getting better at their job. Posers now come into churches and come into businesses and they pose and they come in there to do certain things and they pose like they understand this they know what to do and how to do it, but they don't understand the why. They come in there and they do things where they're persistent and they adapt and they modify and do just exactly like what the others do, but we don't know the why. And so I'm beginning to wonder, why would anyone be willing to help someone else? Why would anyone be willing to help? Because I read a book recently. The name of the book, or the title of the book is Why. So that's the name of the book. But it's written by Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek has this philosophy that there's a golden circle. And if you could imagine, I want you to imagine a target for an arrow, like a bullseye. Does everybody understand a target? I need to draw an illustration up here. I have a whiteboard I can pull out and help you. But one circle in the middle, the next circle, and then the outside circle. Simon Sinek says that, in his book, he says the outside circle that you see is the what that you see people do. That's what you see. It's the most obvious. You see it. He says the next circle is the how they do it. So you see what they do and you see how they do it, but he said the thing that's so difficult to understand is the center of that circle, why they do what they do. And he says, and he says that you can see this in organizations when people focus on the what and the how more than they focus on the why. You want to know how I can tell you? Think about the times that you've gone to a restaurant and the person in the restaurant knows what to do and how to do it, but they have no idea why. I hope that my cook in the restaurant understands why he needs to cook that food to a certain temperature for a certain time. Because if he only knows the what and the how, I might get some undercooked chicken. You understand what I'm saying? Or undercooked meat. Because they don't know. They just know, I'm just watching the timer. It's not a big deal. I know what to do and I know how to do it, but I don't know why. So the why. There's something, I read this the other day. Years ago when Walmart first started, you would go to Walmart and you'd walk into the doors of this big superstore. And remember, years ago when Walmart started, there weren't big superstores. Well, at least not in our towns. And you go into this Walmart, and the first person that you would see when you walked into those doors was who? The greeter, right? Now, these greeters were young, good-looking, sexy-looking people, right? No. What were they? Old retired. Now, I'm sorry for somebody in here that's a greeter at Walmart. I am not. But the truth is, there is not, because there's not any more greeters at Walmart. Walmart phased the out at the front door, and they decided strategically to move them into the store and into the aisles years ago. That's why they're not greeting them, hey, how you doing? We were talking about what did they first do when you came into Walmart years ago, and Lindsay shouted out, they gave you a sticker. Do you remember the day when you used to go into Walmart and they give you that little yellow happy sticker, and every kid is like, we want to go to Walmart to get a sticker, you know? Oh, yeah, see, we can relate to this, right? Walmart is about to add back the greeters. They made the announcement they're going to add back greeters. Do you know why? When Sam Walton, we know what they do. We knew how they did it. We even knew what to anticipate, because we're looking for some older people with a vest on to go, the greeter's somewhere around here. We know what they're going to look like. But we don't know why they did it. See, when Sam Walton first started at Walmart and he knew how big it was going to be, the why behind the greeter was he wanted people to feel like it was family and to feel at home. even when it's a big store. Because this was the first move in a lot of our societies where we moved from a small store, a small family-owned general store, to a larger one. And he wanted people to know that they could see the what. They could see this friendly person, this elderly person, this fatherly or motherly figure or a grandparent that they could relate to that would give you stickers. And I bet you if it'd be like in the old church I used to go to, they'd give you a stick of gum or whatever. That would be creepy now. You got to watch them people that do that. You know, kids, you don't just take chewing gum from anybody unless you know them, okay? Except on Halloween. So there's this part we know why. Well, the reason why they're putting it back in is not because Walmart wants to get that friendly home type feeling, which they do want that. But Walmart lost $300 million in theft the last year. $300 million. If you remember, that greeter also had something else they did. When you came out and you came by them on your way out, had to do what you have had in your hand. Receipt. And what did they have in there? Is a little yellow marker or something. Remember that? So they're putting it back so you know the why. So the question comes to me is, why would people run toward a fire and not away? Why would people sacrifice personally for someone else? Why would people care about others? Why would they kneel down and talk to them at their level? Why would they give an employee a second check? Why? I see the what and I see the how they do it, but why would they do that? Well, see, I have the answer for that. I think all heroes have had this because somebody did it to them. Somebody bent down and met them where they were. Somebody encouraged them when they were embarrassed in front of a lot of people. It might not have been 22,000. It might have been in the 5th grade or 6th grade or 7th grade at a Pop Warner football game, but that coach didn't chew him out the way that everybody anticipated he should be chewed out. Even sometimes the coach didn't do that like the parent did to that child. See, sometimes parents, we struggle with this part. Sometimes parents, our children connect with others better sometimes in some areas of our life than they connect with us. And it's because that somebody's done that for them. And so, but if you think about it in your life, did somebody connect with you? And was that a bad thing? Because sometimes you can hear it from somebody else what you can't hear your mom and dad say. See, what we realize is that someone did it for them. Now, I don't know that someone ran into a building for all those firemen witnessed people running toward the fire instead of running away. You understand? I don't know if in military they see it. I don't know. But for them personally, somebody's done something like that. And when you're around in those situations, you see that. And it changes things. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that if you picture a car, that has a motor and engine going down the road. You see what the car does, and you see how the car goes. But the one behind the steering wheel is why. Why determines the what and how of your life. So, why would anyone do that? And tying this to my whole message series here to conclude this today, why would anybody follow Jesus? Why would anybody step out and follow Jesus from where they are and move from maybe questioning him or coming checking him out and moving from that point to moving to a point where they might say, well, I want to follow you. I'll make a verbal oath to you. Or maybe even step a step further and say, I want to be a part of that body called Christians. And so they're baptized into that body of Christians to identify to the world and to remind them of himself and who they are. And maybe they go out on their first assignment with a few small people and they serve, or they volunteer as greeters, or they make the coffee over here, or they clean up after church and they serve, or they come to a yard sale and help serve and help. And then why would they go on and maybe they take the step further to say, maybe I'll lead a small group, Or maybe somebody needs some prayer and I'll be the one to stand there and pray for you or be there for you or help you when your car breaks down or help you when you're running into trouble. See, why would people do that as Christians? Why do you do what you do as a Christian? See, we see what you do. You think about what you're doing. And truthfully, I've seen how you do it. But I'm trying to understand why you do what you do. Now, Paul writes about this to Christians like us. But he wrote to them thousands of years ago because this was an issue in their world. And so in this we find the answer. Let me read to you what he says. He's writing to a group in a place called Philippi. So the people who live in Philippi are called Filipinos. No, that's the other place. Philippians. They're called... I just see it if you knew. I like so. They're called now I'm messed up now. Philippians. There you go. So that's the book in the Bible. Chapter 2, it says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ. So the group that he's talking to is the people who claim to be united with Christ. If you're sitting in here and you're at some stage in this process of your growth as a disciple, you're united with Christ in some way. It may only be by a fingertip that you're holding on. It may be a full grip on him. It may be a full-on embrace, but you're connected to him in some way. Some of you might be just a little bit out of grasp, but you're still right there on his heels checking him out. He says, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if you've had any comfort from his love, if you've had any common sharing in the Spirit, any tenderness, any compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of mind. So what he's saying, he's like, listen, think about your journey. How has Jesus, through the power of the Holy Spirit, how has God, through Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit, how has Jesus encouraged you as a Christian? How has he encouraged you in your time of need? How has he had common sharing, which I would say is fellowship? How has he provided fellowship for you at a time when you were so lonely you needed that? You were hungry for that. You're hungry for a deeper relationship. And somewhere or another, he provides that. And it might start with just one person. But maybe it grew into two, and maybe it grew into a small group, and maybe it grew into a team. How many of you have ever experienced tenderness from Jesus? Or compassion? Compassion. It all comes from his love for you. And you probably would experience that from somebody else. From someone in your life, or a group in your life, or situations in your life. And Paul says you need to connect that. He continues in verse 3, he says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. So what he's saying now is these are the things that will stand between you as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, showing encouragement, showing comfort, showing fellowship, showing tenderness, showing compassion. This is what will stand between you. This is the barrier to get over. He says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. See, we think it's all about us. See, a hero knows it's about them. They still overcome it and go into the building anyway. They still sacrifice. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. Get off my toes, preacher. Because some of us don't value others above ourselves. Some of us stay up here and talk to that little child from up here with the position that we've been given in life. See, some of us in this room here have been given things. We have wealth and we have things. Listen, I want you to understand, you didn't choose which family you were born into. And you didn't choose which country you're in right now. Now, as you get older, you can leave. You can go anywhere else. But all of you are choosing to stay here. Because some of those people in the world didn't have a choice to be born into poverty where they are in India and other places, and into situations, into countries that would sell little children into sex trade. You understand? Or to be in a world where people would take little children and take advantage of them like that. So you weren't born into that. And so I see these things, and he says that you value others above yourself, not looking to your own interest, but each of you out of the interest of others. See, I think Jesus was one of those people and the example of a hero in my life that did things with no strings attached. Jesus did things with no strings attached. He was nothing selfish about what he did. There was no vanity in him. He wasn't conceited about what he did. He was always looking to the interest of others. In fact, I know there's stories in the Bible where he's going to help this person over here, and some person believes if they just touch his garment, they can be healed from a sickness. And he's on his way here. This person's dying. I mean, they're dying. They're going to die. It's a 12-year-old girl. She's going to die. You got to get there. And this person touches him, and Jesus stops. Where is that person? And he stops from this important thing to be there in that moment. And in my view of this, he kneeled down. When the woman's caught in adultery and they're about to stone her, she's down below Jesus' feet. And everybody leaves, and in my eyes, I don't see Jesus say, "Get up from there." I see Jesus say, "Get up from there and go and sin no more." He meets them where they are. He sacrifices all of these things of the kingdom of God. Let me tell you, when you're God's son, everything's at your disposal. And he chose to come to you and to I in the form of a person. He chose to not call down the entire armies of angels to take out that guard that was giving him the lashes before he hung on the cross. He did not call down Gabriel, though he could have. And the guy, as he's hammering the stakes into his arms, could have said, "Take him out." He could have said, because of who he was God's son. He could have said, "Let me do this without pain." By the way, if you go back to that story, they offered him myrrh and a drink before he went on the cross. That was the dead and the pain. And he said, "No." That's that I got that Mel Gibson thing, and what was that, Braveheart? You remember that? You know, does anybody see that movie? I'm sort of changing subjects here, but I had coffee. It's sort of working on me right now. I can sort of feel it. The sugar from the cappuccino part is gone, but that caffeine is starting to kick in, guys. I'm telling you, this is pretty good up here. Y'all look pretty good right here. But you remember in Braveheart where she gives him that stuff to try to dull, and he says, I can't lose myself. I can't lose control. That's that image I have of Jesus that says, I don't want that, because these people are worth it. So I hear this, and Paul says, as he finishes up, he says, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus. He's saying to you and I, have the same mind like Jesus. You're going to follow him, then have the same mind. Now, later on, we find in James, and I guess I asked this question, why would anyone follow Jesus like this? Why would anyone be Christ-like? Why would anyone do that for someone else? Because Jesus did it for us. If you claim his name as a Christian, as a follower, he did that for you. He's done this and millions of times more things in your life. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we sacrifice. That's why we yield. That's why we try to do that. And we struggle because we're trying to get the vanity out. We're trying to get the conceitedness out. We're trying to get this position out that I'm a church person, and we can't do that. We can't get our hands dirty. Now, Jesus' brother James was writing, and I'm pretty sure that it's James that wrote this book, his brother. James writes in chapter 2 of the book of James, he says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters," where he's talking about insiders to us, "if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? So can you believe all this stuff but not do anything about it? Will that make a difference in the world?" He goes on to say, "Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace and keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it?" And he says, in the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. Do you understand what this looks like? I'm sitting here now in myself, and I've got my Superman outfit on. Dun, 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 dun. This is my Superman pose. Now imagine me having the cape of Superman, super Christian, just the wind's blowing in my hair. Well, not my hair, but close your eyes if you have to get this mental image, okay? If you have to close your eyes and stretch your imagination in your mind's eyes, you can do this, but I'm the super Christian. Dun, da, 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 and there's background music going on. My cape is flapping in the wings, and how can I help you? Ah, yes, Preston, I love you, my son. What a great guy you are. And I keep doing all this and walking around and strutting, and poor old Lindsay over there cuts her foot and is bleeding. Ah, super Christian to the rescue. I'll pray for you, Lindsay. And that blood that's coming out of your foot as you turn paler and more pale, and I tell you what, I've seen this happen before, Lindsay. We need to get something to mop up that blood there, girl. Yeah, but I'm a little bit queasy here, but I'm super Christian. I can help you. Sarah, can I have your skirt for a minute and wrap her foot up? No. How about your jacket? Would you give me your jacket? Could I have your jacket? That's a super Christian asking you to have your jacket to put on to her. Okay, you would give me your jacket. Thank you so much, because there's blood now. There's 2 pints on the floor right now. And I'm needing that. Can I use your shoestrings? And what we end up doing is we ask everybody else to do something instead of doing it ourselves. Where we could take the cape off our back and we could wrap that cape around that and make a difference right there, because we think somebody else is supposed to do it. When you see a need as a follower of Jesus Christ, that is your responsibility. You are Christ's hands and feet in this world. It is your responsibility. When somebody is down, let's don't go get Dorsey to pray for them. That's your chance. That's your opportunity. God has presented those opportunities for you to come and do this. How can I help you? Because somebody did that for you. James says, but someone will say, you have faith and I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. James says, I'm not going to be the super Christian, and I'm getting in there. I'm not calling for help. I'm doing it. Somebody, you go get help. I got to take care of this. This is me. He finishes up and he says, you see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. So what are you doing these days? What have you been doing with the faith that you have? I think about this and think about Dave Thomas. Dave Thomas was the founder of Wendy's. And he died in 2002. And Dave Thomas said one time, he said, my grandmother taught me about the roll up your shirt sleeve Christians. He says those are the ones that change the world. It's the Christians who roll up their sleeves and they get in there and they do what they can with what they have, where they are. When they see a need, they meet a need. See, many people in your life and in your circle of influence are struggling right now. And they might even be right beside you. They might be struggling with something personal. And they're looking for that help. They may have been praying about it, and you don't know that you're not the answer to that prayer. Because, see, here's where I've come to the conclusion in this. When super Christian stands back, da 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 da, and points and directs what needs to be done, they see my what I do, and they see how I do it. And I'm guessing at why you do it. Because you don't care. Because you've forgotten what Jesus has done for you. See, Jesus reminded us this a lot. He everything you see about him, he's like, Peter, I'm going to tell you this because you're going to forget it. John, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to do this Last Supper with you because you're going to forget it. You're going to tend to forget. You're going to have to write it on your heart, put it in front of you every day. Even Moses was talking about, because you'll tend to forget, you got to remember who you are. And you're Jesus' feet and hands in this world. So what I want you to do right now for a few moments as we get ready to take up our offering, I want you to bow your head. And our ushers are going to be coming forward in preparation for this. But I try to have a plan of action for us to try to think about what we're doing.